Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, we will start straight away with discussing about diabetes and the skin. Can you please change the slide? Yeah, so some facts that I think all of us should know about diabetes and pertaining to skin. So the incidence of cutaneous manifestations is as many as 30 to 70% of diabetics in various studies. And skin is affected by both. There are certain acute metabolic derangements, and everybody knows that there are chronic degenerative complications as well. So skin is affected by both of these changes. Now, why should we, even dermatologists and non-dermatologists, why should we all be aware of these manifestations? Because some of them may actually precede the development of overt clinical diabetes. And it has been commonly noticed that cutaneous infections are more commonly seen in type 2, whereas autoimmune related manifestations are seen in type 1. And for all of these conditions, the main treatment is in good metabolic control in the diabetes. Next slide, please. Coming to the underlying changes in brief, what exactly happens here? So we are all aware that in diabetes, you have impaired glucose tolerance, you have insulin resistance in various tissues, and as a result of which there are a lot of inflammatory mediators, cytokines secreted. All of those cause a pro-inflammatory hormonal milieu in the body. It leads to formation of advanced glycation end products. They get deposited in various tissues, and that is how you have all these manifestations. So coming to the manifestations, we have divided them for ease into these different subheadings: vascular, metabolic, necrobiotic, bullous, infectious, and neuropathic. Next slide, please. So coming to vascular manifestations, these are the various vascular manifestations seen on the skin. So we have diabetic dermopathy, we have rubeosis faciei, pigmented purpura, periungual telangiectasia, and erythrocephalus like erythema. So I'll just discuss one by one about these in brief. So diabetic dermopathy, the first manifestation, that is the most common manifestation seen in diabetics. And this is also known as shin spots. So why is it known as shin spots? Because they're small, it starts as small reddish spots on the tibial region, that is the shin, and they're usually asymptomatic. And some theories have incriminated mild trauma as a causative factor. Then these lesions are self-limiting, but then they also lead to hyperpigmentation and they heal by atrophy. Now, why is diabetic dermopathy an important clinical manifestation? Because it is a marker of underlying microvascular disease, and hence it has a strong association with diabetic neuropathy as well as retinopathy. The next condition is, can you just change the slide, please? Rubeosis faciei. So again, this is the rosy redness of the face. So there'll be a flushed appearance on the cheeks in especially in early diabetics. So again, this is due to vascular changes, functional microangiopathy, and again, this has a correlation with the glycemic control. Next slide, please. Dr. Rajesh, next slide, please. Yeah, so in the first picture on your left, you can see the condition called as pigmented purpura. I think you've skipped that slide. Can we go back that slide, please? Previous slide, yeah. The first picture is pigmented purpura. So you can see in this picture that it is visible over the lower leg, dependent part of the body. And a lot of these patients will give you a history of prolonged standing or a sedentary profession. The second picture on top is periungual telangiectasia. So around the nails, if you see closely, you can see dilated blood vessels. So again, marker of diabetic microangiopathy. Lastly, you have erysipeloid erythema. Again, you can see a lot of big red colored rash on the right leg of the patient in the picture. So this is also basically a vascular complication of diabetes. And coming to the next manifestations. So as you can see, pictures speak like 1,000 words. So you can easily notice all these changes on the diabetic patients. The next one is metabolic changes. So metabolic changes, we have first one is acanthosis nigricans. And this is very, very commonly seen in so many diabetics as a dirty, leathery appearance, especially in neck folds or even in the axillary area or even in the antecubital fossa. The second picture is the yellow nail. Again, yellow nail is not specific for diabetes, but it's a common finding among diabetics. The smaller picture is eruptive xanthoma. Basically, these are yellowish to reddish small lesions present mostly on the extensor aspects, such as the extensor aspects of the arms, the buttocks, etc. And they are basically an indication of the underlying metabolic derangements in diabetes. Lastly, you have diabetic scleroderma, where your advanced glycation end products all accumulate in the connective tissue and cause stiffness of the hand joints. So you can see that prayer sign that has been depicted in this picture. So there's a reduced mobility of the digits. Next slide, please. The next presentation is necrobiotic. So by the word necrobiotic, what we essentially mean is anything necrosis is a degenerative change. So there are certain degenerative changes that are happening in diabetics, broadly divided into two types, necrobiosis lipoidica and granuloma annulare. Next slide, please. So the first condition, that is necrobiosis lipoidica, as you can see the name suggests, this is like a lipid-like deposition that leads to a yellowish discoloration of the lesions. The lesions are commonly seen over the pretibial areas as waxy deposits. So they are largely asymptomatic but disfiguring. So both these conditions are disfiguring. The patient will not complain of symptoms as such, but then they are disfiguring. They don't like the appearance of these lesions. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so you could see the lesions of necrobiosis lipoidica in the picture, pretibial in distribution, and the description that I've just given. And it's an indicator of long-standing diabetes. The next condition is granuloma annulare. So as the name suggests, it is annular in appearance. So it has a peripheral border that seems to be active and the depressed center. And this condition commonly resembles, people usually mistake it for ringworm infection. So those are two entirely different conditions, and one must be able to distinguish between these two, because treatment and the prognosis and the natural course of the two conditions, that's entirely different. Next slide, please. Yeah, so you can see the lesions of granuloma annulare, and you can also see that some people do think that, it's confusing with the ringworm. So it's a different condition here. This is a non-infectious condition. Ringworm is essentially an infectious condition. Next slide, please. So the next one is bullous diabeticorum. So this is a very rare manifestation in diabetics, incidence being 0.5% of type 1 diabetics. It is seen in long-standing peripheral neuropathy, and the bullous diabeticorum is The bullae here are usually non-infected, sterile blisters, painless, and they do not arise post any trauma. They're usually spontaneous. And they are usually seen on the dorsa and sides of the lower legs and feet. And since the pain is not there and all, the patient will just complain of some kind of a lesion on the foot that has ruptured spontaneously, and it heals in 2 to 4 weeks. If the sugars are grossly deranged, it can get infected, so the patient has to be informed of the same. So the next one is infections. So on the left, you can see all bacterial infections. You have chronic recurrent folliculitis. And then you have furuncle, which is a deeper infection. You have cellulitis. Cellulitis is a subcutaneous tissue involvement. Paronychia, that is inflammation of the nail and the surrounding tissues. So all of these conditions, infections are very common in diabetics, and they can easily be a marker for diabetes. The right side pictures, as you can see, the first one is dermatophytosis, that is ringworm infection. And the one below that is intertrigo, involving the intertriginous areas. So infections are definitely very, very common in diabetics because of the deranged sugar levels, and they have to be treated with aggression, because if they're not treated, then they will keep on recurring, and that is how it that is why that's a big problem in diabetics. Next slide, please. So neuropathic manifestations include anhidrosis or hyperhidrosis, that is absence of or increased sweating. Neuropathic ulcers, this is a different topic altogether. So it has, the neuropathy part has been dealt with in detail by the previous speaker as well. Then you have eczema and xerosis. So because of all these dysautonomic changes, you can have a lot of dryness, that is xerotic skin in diabetics. Again, this has to be treated with aggression, because otherwise it will lead to trauma. They'll keep scratching, and it will lead to ulcers, and neuropathic ulcers are very difficult to treat then. So what I want all of you all to remember is that diabetic dermopathy is the most common cutaneous manifestation, and we should be aware of all these skin manifestations, because so many of the times a patient will not be diabetic and showing the manifestations. The patient can actually have these skin conditions, and if you get their sugars tested, yes, they will be positive, they'll be high. And one has to be very, very careful, and one has to be watchful for these lesions, because sometimes they're asymptomatic. Patient will not complain, but yes, you can notice and you can help in early detection. And important thing is that because of the higher sugar status, the skin manifestations also serve as a portal of entry for secondary infections to set in. Hence, it is very important that the sugar levels are controlled. That is the main take home point here. So with this, I end my presentation. I hope it was short, sweet, as well as informative.
Thank you so much, ma'am.